In today's show, the Blazers make a financial commitment to Damian Lillard, $122 million to make him the greatest Trailblazer of all time. Plus, Shaedon Sharpe's summer league is done, but Portland may have found the steal of the draft with their other rookie at 57. That's right, Jabari Walker's looking pretty good in Vegas. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter Mike Richman. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making the show your first listen every single day. Free on all platforms, 5 days a week. Start your day listening to Locked On Blazers, the only daily Trailblazers podcast. Make it your very first listen every single day. We got a lot to talk about today. Damian Lillard got paid over the weekend. Shaedon Sharpe's summer league ended. And then the other rookie the Blazers drafted at 57, Jabari Walker, looks like a hooper. Let's talk about the young guys a little bit later. Let's start with Damian Lillard, who on Saturday evening, July 9th, 6 days before his 32nd birthday, signed a 2-year, $122 million contract extension to keep him in Portland. Commit to the team through the 2026-2027 season. He'll be the first player in league history, or is the first player in league history to sign a contract with a single season, with a value over $60 million for one season. In his final year of that contract, making $63.3 million, and maybe more because it's 35% of the salary cap, and whatever the salary cap bumps up to as that kicks in, might be making a little more money if we assume what's been reported is the salary cap supposed to continue to climb over the next few years. Damian Lillard in here for the long haul. Let's just say this. Congrats to Dame. Congrats. Over $400 million in NBA contracts. Like, this is a dude who went to Weber State and didn't play in the NCAA tournament, and now he's going to make $500 million playing in the NBA. What a freaking rise. When the Blazers put out this release, the release included a quote from Joe Cronin that said, make no bones, mince no words. Damian Lillard is the greatest Portland Trailblazer of all time. That's what they're saying. They're committing to him. And Dame, quite frankly, he will be. Like Drexler, shots fired or whatever. But like Clyde Drexler has a case now. 2 championship appearances, second in MVP voting. It was up there, right? Like, he's probably a more decorated individual career than Dame to some extent to this point. But if Dame spends 15 years in Portland, he's gonna have every record. He'll be on top of everything with Clyde in the Portland Trailblazers like franchise record books, and he'll have 15 years of longevity. This is a commitment by the franchise to get Dame to that level, and they're calling their shot now. And it's also a commitment from Dame. This time last year, he was, for the first time ever that we've heard him, openly considering his future with the franchise. Even if you are sworn to disbelieve reporting from Henry Abbott, Dame's words tell you everything you need to know. At a press conference last July, he said, and this is the first time we really heard him say it, that he hadn't decided what his future will be. This is someone under contract for multiple seasons at the time, like for 3 more years plus a team option. And he's saying he hadn't decided what his future will be. That is a real contemplating your future type of statement, something we'd never, ever heard Dame do. And Dame mentioned in his press conference this weekend on Saturday that he didn't consider like switching teams, but he was at a spot where he was really openly considering a future, and that's what it was. We know that he took a meeting with LeBron James and Anthony Davis in LA and discussed potentially joining the Lakers. Like, he was really for real considering leaving the team. Like, it is what it is. I think that's out there. Now, a year later, look at him. Back through his 36th year on this planet. 15 years in the league, committed to the Portland Trailblazers. Through the 2026-27 season, he's back. This is the guy who preaches loyalty, and whatever happened between whatever changed, obviously there's some huge big stuff that changed, like including who's in charge of handing out these contracts. But whatever changed in Dame's heart or in his mind between last July and when he seemingly came, 2 feet in, as we were saying, when the season started, and now he's committed to being here. The other part is that there's a whole bunch of money. Of course he wants it. And he wants if you are a guy of Dame's caliber, one of the 10 or 15 best players in the league, I was pretty comfortable calling one of the 10 best players in the league, and then he missed most of last season with this injury, and he didn't look good when he played. I'll be comfortable calling one of the 10 best players in the league again, like 2 games into next season, but for now I'm hedging and calling him 10 to 15 because, I don't want anyone to get super upset with me. But one of the very good players in the league, one of, the faces of the franchise and all of those things, this is what you get. You get big old max contract money. This is the financial commitment that had to happen. And if you've been listening to this podcast, I've been saying, Dame's going to sign this. All of the tea leaves, all of the arrows, flashing signs were pointing in this direction. When he was still here in the fall, when he didn't change teams and that kind of stuff died down a little bit, it became clear that he was going to come back, and one of the reasons he was going to come back is because the Blazers were going to commit to him. Every time he's been eligible for a contract, the Blazers have gone ahead and given it to him. It's one of the few players during the Olshey era, him and CJ McCollum, who signed a contract extension coming off his rookie deal, didn't hit free agency, signed a max then, has signed a max since then, now is signing another max contract extension. The team and him have been aligned. They want to be here. They want to be here together. But the money's big, which makes people feel a certain type of way, and you're welcome to feel however you feel. But let me say this. In all of the other free agency stuff, I have leaned away from saying words like worth and deserve. Because in the immortal words of the philosopher Felicia Snoop Pearson,
deserve got nothing to do with it.
Deserve got nothing to do with it. Deserve got nothing to do with it. It is what it is. Dame was always headed down this path, and if the Blazers wanted to continue this relationship with him, this was going to go there. And Damian Lillard has been so much more valuable than $122 million to the franchise. I've been told by people who work with the organization, people who work with the Blazers, that a NBA playoff gate for them, like a home playoff game, nets them over $2 million. It could be more now, but at the time it was over $2 million. That means when Damian Lillard's dragged underachieving rosters to the playoffs consecutive seasons in a row, even if he gets swept by the Warriors that year that they finished 8th, he just gave him $5 million by dragging him along. Not to mention just the incredible brand ambassador he's been, just what he's meant to as the face of the franchise, what he's meant from a dollars and cents standpoint. Dame's worth way more than $122 million. Sure. No doubt about it. I don't even think it's debatable, quite frankly. He is worth more than that. But there's a reality to this. And that's paying a 35-year-old, anyone, basically 35 years old, 35% of the cap greatly hamstrings how competitive of a roster you can build around him. I think Damian Lillard making the first year of the extension is about $58 million, the second year $63 million. Those numbers subject to change because it's a percentage of the cap, not a defined number right now. That's how that's the word max in max contract is the maximum he can get, 35% of the salary cap. We'll see where it lands. But I don't think the dollars and cents on that won't matter too much. It's whatever 35% of the cap means when that happens to begin the 25-26 season. It'll be hard to build a really good team with a 35-year-old player making 35% of the cap. It'll be hard to do it again in this following season with a 36-year-old point guard making 35% of the salary cap. It's a salary cap league. It's challenging. And Portland is in a situation where they aren't players. There's 8 teams in the league who are players in free agency. They're not going to be an attractive place for players to come and take a discount. Their offer is more money. That's how they get there. And this will make it challenging. The way for the Blazers to mitigate this challenge is to get players on the roster before this before the salary kicks in, before this extension kicks in, and retain them. Retain talent. Have them on there. You can, get dudes bird rights, go over the salary cap, do all the little, make smart draft picks, make smart trades, because you're not going to be a player signing people. And even if the salary cap goes up, the percentage is the same. Like, it's 35% of the cap. Damian Lillard making this much money will make it a challenge on the back half of this contract for this team to be super, super competitive. It is what it is. But it's also you look around the league, this is the price of doing business. If you have a superstar, and I think Chauncey Billups pointed this out, there's two types of teams that have a superstar and teams that are looking for one. The Blazers have a superstar. This is the cost to retain them. Deserve got nothing to do with it. This is the game. The second half of that quote that I didn't play you in the drop from Felicia Snoop Pearson is, Deserve got nothing to do with it. It was just his time. And that's what this was. It was Dame's time. When Damian Lillard was on the roster in the fall, I started saying on this podcast, I think he's going to get a $100 million contract extension, because this is the price of doing business with a superstar in the league. And I'll say this before we switch gears a little bit. I think fans should celebrate this, because it's fun to root for someone like Damian Lillard. There is an obsession with sort of financial efficiency in the NBA. And there's a reality in a salary cap league of paying guys too much money and the challenge it brings. I absolutely recognize that, and I've just kind of laid it out for you. But on its surface, rooting for Damian Lillard has been the best part of being a Trailblazers fan for the last 10 years, and now he's committed to do it for at least 5 more seasons. The fear of him, skipping town or holding the Blazers hostage in some way until he can switch teams, because that's what was going to have to happen if he had chose to switch teams last year. He was under contract for multiple seasons. It would have been kind of a gross divorce. That's out the window, because he's committed here for 5 more years, and they have said, yes, you're our guy, let's go for it. And that's fun as a fan. It's fun to root for that. It's fun. There is the loyalty from both sides coming together, so you get to root for your favorite player and your favorite basketball franchise with your favorite player still on it. That is worth rooting for. I think this is a good thing. I recognize the financial constraints. Deserve got nothing to do with it. But I think overall, if you're a Blazers fan, this is a day you should celebrate. I'm extremely pro-labor in all of these things. We'll talk about this a little more in the show. I got another pro-labor take. I'm never rooting for anyone to make less money who's like the entertainment portion of the league. But there's a reality to it that will make that a little bit more challenging. So in the near term, celebrate it. 5 more years of Damian Lillard. Congrats to Dame, on path to being the greatest Trailblazer of all time. The Blazers have made that commitment to him. But the challenge of making that commitment to him is now you got to build the right team around him. And the Blazers tried to do that by drafting Shaedon Sharpe, number 7 overall. And then Shaedon Sharpe's summer league experience lasted less than 6 minutes. Shaedon Sharpe has a small tear of the labrum in his left shoulder. Let's talk about that in the second segment. But before we get there, let me tell you about BetOnline. If you sign up for a BetOnline account right now, free account, you will get access to all of their informative betting articles, give you tips on all the sports you're interested in, some insider tips of the day, some long-term plays, just to make you a more informed gambler. That way, you don't have to just throw money down blindly, but you can have a better chance at better payouts. And that's all of the action they've got, with more lines, more props, more odds than anywhere else. So why don't you go to BetOnline, become a more informed bettor, and then go ahead and win some money. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. All right. Congrats to Damian Lamont Ollie Lillard Sr. getting the bag and getting the commitment from the franchise. The franchise gets the commitment from him. A happy marriage. Now it's about the future with Dame part of the plan, on the ship and captain in this bad boy. Well, start of that future went a little sideways. Shaedon Sharpe, now officially ruled out for Summer League with a small tear of the labrum in his left shoulder. Small tear being the words the Blazers used in the press release that they sent out to the media. I'm not a doctor. Labrum tears in the NBA, from what I'm familiar with, Zach Collins, Ed Davis, Myers Leonard, and the handful of years, 8 years I've been around the team. Those are usually end with surgical options. I think small tear maybe implies that the team doesn't hope that it doesn't end in surgery, but surgery for those guys has typically been 6+ months. So obviously the Blazers don't want that. I think some of them 4 to 6 is maybe the range that for most NBA guys. So you want Shaedon Sharpe to heal naturally. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm just saying my experience around labrum tears is that typically it's been when you get surgery, not if. Which sucks. It sucks. Because Shaedon Sharpe was the excitement of the summer. He was supposed to be the guy that, made the future feel bright and special. He was a mystery man coming out of the draft, and our first chance to look at him was going to be in Vegas. His first chance to play, higher level basketball against pros. Prove all the things that you've heard whispers from him killing it at Kentucky practice, for him having a really good training camp in the week-long mini camp the Blazers held. All of the whispers you've heard from people who've actually seen him. This was going to be our chance to really see him. And then a minute and a half into his summer league career, he looks like he kind of got caught up on Jaden Ivey, and I thought he hurt his elbow at first, but clearly eventually it became a shoulder thing. He was ruled out, shortly thereafter, and then he appeared in game 2 on Saturday evening. He was wearing a sling on the bench. I thought it was one of those cool crossbody bags that everyone's wearing. His purse gang is really heavy with wealthy young men in the NBA. Everyone's rocking cool purses, and I thought he was rocking a cool purse on the bench. Turns out he's wearing a sling after I realized they showed him like 10 times on the broadcast. Stinks. It really does. I think there's no other way to put it. I think what the issue for me is that Sharpe, more than probably any other rookie, just needs to play. I don't think this is going to if he's fine and recovers, no surgery wise. I don't think playing 4 games in summer league is like a massive game changer, but it is just for some sort of prove it type jitters, for him to have 6 good minutes in summer league and then go work on his game after that and in gyms and get 5-on-5 run at UCLA or wherever he ends up. It gives him a little bit of that confidence. I played 7 good minutes in Vegas and I killed those dudes. I'm ready. Because all the whispers suggest that he's ready. But I think more than other rookies, because Sharpe's path, because he, skipped his senior year of high school and then didn't play at Kentucky in his lone semester there, he needed some minutes to play against pros, probably just for his psyche, and maybe just selfishly, maybe just for me, maybe just for so I could feel more comfortable, because there's a chance he hits the ground running and is fine. But that stinks. I think it really does. I don't think there's a positive way to spin it other than hey, Portland's being cautious. As soon as he was hurt in Thursday's game, he didn't practice on Saturday, and it was or on Friday rather. And it was when he didn't participate in practice, I knew it was done for. I knew that they weren't going to play him in summer league, regardless of what the health outcomes came. It just if they're holding him out, if he's not going to play, if they're holding him out immediately, they're not going to take any risks. The Blazers are invested in the long-term health of Shaedon Sharpe. 4 years of his rookie deal, the rookie extension, 8 years, a third contract, 15 years, similar to the commitment to Damian Lillard, right? Hopefully, best case scenario, we're talking about him signing a 35% max in 10 years. But they were going to be cautious with him. So I wasn't surprised when he was, ruled out and not playing. The summer league's a little slow with injury reporting, and the Blazers over the last handful of seasons have become less and less open about injury reporting and stuff like that. So I thought, the no news is bad news, not necessarily my read, but when he didn't practice, shout out to Casey Holall, reporter for Trailblazers.com, for reporting that Sharpe did not practice, then it was always he wasn't going to play in summer league. But I think that the labrum tear, seeing that in the press release, it's a bummer. It's not a bummer. A real legitimate bright spot, Jabari Walker. He's been awesome. Let's talk about Jabari Walker, the 57th pick in the NBA draft. Blazers look like he got a steal and a legitimate basketball player with the second to last pick in the draft this year. Some pretty good spots to luck out. Let's talk all about Jabari and what we've seen from him in 2 summer league games. But first, let me tell you about rockauto.com, the family business, specializing in helping do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, 2 decades of experience helping you save time and money, real money. Like 30, 50, or 100% savings compared to if you go to a chain auto parts store or the car dealership. There are so many makes and models on the road. It's hard for brick and mortar places to carry all the parts you might need for your car, for your vehicle. And they are just not built to save you money. Rock Auto was born online. They are built to do this. So why don't you head on over to their website, see all the parts available for your car or your truck, and while you're there, write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box. That way, they will know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com. Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. You are still listening to Locked On Blazers. Jabari Walker looks good. Looks good. You know the best part about Summer League? It's guys like Jabari Walker. It's guys who are back end of the rotation. I've never seen him play except for 8 minutes of YouTube highlights prior to the Summer League happening. It's someone who surprises you coming out of nowhere to be competent. Not even crazy special. Just like, oh, this dude can play. And that's the best thing I can say about Jabari Walker is that he knows how to play basketball. I think I joke about a lot with friends who I watch games with is like, we'll watch a young player and say, whenever he learns how to play basketball, he's going to be really good. I felt this way about Jordan Poole early this season. It's like Jordan Poole just like sometimes he doesn't, his decision-making belies his talent. It's like, whenever he figures out what's going on, man, is he going to take off. He did that and then some this year, but like, and that's mostly just a joke because Jordan Poole's pretty good. But Jabari Walker, I don't think that about him. The dude just has a great sense of how to play this game. In the first Summer League game, he didn't miss any shots. Ball go in. Always helps. This is the best way to play basketball is make all your shots. It's the best coaching adjustment you can do is have dudes make all their shots. Everybody looks better and smarter when the ball goes in. But he looked better in game 2. He didn't make all of his shots in game 2, and he looked better. He looked like a better basketball player. There was one sequence that caught my eye in the third quarter. It was 2 back and forths. Blazers get a stop. They're rolling in the middle quarters. They beat the snot out of the Pelicans in those middle 2 quarters. Summer League, no box score stuff. But the Blazers is 1-1 now in Summer League. But third quarter, Blazers get a rebound. Jabari Walker sprints the court. And he runs corner. He knows to run wide. If you're running the league, used to be run to the rim. If you're not a true center, you don't run to the rim anymore. You run to the corners. You space out. But the ball followed him to the corner. And he tracked the ball and he realized, okay, I got to vacate the corner so they can run. His 2 teammates were there. They can run some action. They can run an empty side pick and roll. So he vacates to the corner. And while he vacates the corner, runs baseline to the opposite corner. Just basketball stuff. Like not particularly noteworthy or anything. Like most of these dudes have played enough basketball to know that. But it's like you just see him. It's just natural. He doesn't have to think. He sees the ball, finds the ball, keeps it moving. His teammate shoots a really short 3 and he almost gets his hands on the offensive rebound just because he's vacating under the rim. But it's just like a little basketball thing. Like, whatever. Blazers go the other way. Get a stop again. And this time, Jabari begins to sprint up the court. Same thing. He's going to run to that opposite corner. But he sees when he's running, like, last time I didn't touch it, and I've been playing pretty well, so give me the ball. And so he kind of, instead of a straight line sprint to the corner, he stops, calls for the ball, gets it from his teammate, and it right in the sort of defensive side of half court. Hasn't crossed half court yet with the ball. And you think that a dude like him, who's played pretty well to start this game, and is like kind of feeling it, is just going to put his head down, go to the rim. Summer League, you don't need to pass to your teammates. That's not what it's there for. But instead, he takes 2 dribbles. All eyes go to him, and he makes the right pass, easy layup for a bucket. Little basketball stuff. Dude just knows how to play basketball. Those are not particularly meaningful plays. Like he had his other assist was he did, 2 little crossovers to get get eyeballs on him. Trendon Watford goes back door. He throws a bounce pass. Easy bucket for Trendon. His first bucket in the first half, Jabari Walker drove to the rim, Euro steps his way into the paint and threw up a layup that was super short. Athletic move to get there, but kind of just like didn't have the juice to finish in traffic. Stayed with it, put the ball back in. Looks better in the box score than it did, but it was like a reminder that he's just... he just knows what he's doing. He realized halfway through it wasn't going to work out, stayed with the play, got an easy bucket. He didn't shoot well in this game, 0 for 4 from 3. Only one of those threes was like a legitimately bad shot, but where he took a step back because the Blazers offense was stalling. But dude just knows how to play. He knows where to be on defense, knows where to be on offense. He just has a great feel and a great sense. He's the fun part of Summer League. He's what makes Vegas fun because he's a guy who he's probably playing for a contract right now. He is very likely to get the Blazers' second two-way spot, but they haven't announced him. And when they announced all of the rest of the signings, they didn't announce Jabari Walker. I think the Blazers are very likely to go in with 14 players under contract and both two-way spots filled and a 15th roster spot open. The most sort of like ruthless, smart team-building way to treat Jabari Walker is give him a two-way contract and say, play your way into the 15th roster spot. And I think that's what the Blazers will do because it makes the most sense. If they do sign someone to the 15th roster spot, it should probably be a center. It should probably be a veteran, like someone who could just like, isn't a developmental piece. They got a lot of developmental pieces. The most sort of ruthless thing to do is keep Jabari on a two-way because that was probably always the plan with him. But he looks like an NBA player, and he's played himself into, if he does end up getting the 15th roster spot, if they do end up signing him to a contract, and they would have to dip into the mid-level exception to sign him to a multi-year deal, like some CBA stuff with how it works with second-year guys. And they've kept some of that powder dry. They could still potentially do that. But regardless if he's a two-way guy or a 15th roster spot, I'm rooting for him to get a real roster spot because I'm pro-labor here. But I think a two-way contract makes more sense from a team perspective, from this sort of financial efficiency obsession of the NBA. It makes more sense to sign him to a two-way deal and treat him like Trent Watford. If he earns it, you sign him to that multi-year real NBA deal midseason. And you just, because of the way two-way contracts work now, one, it's like $500,000. It's an okay, it's pretty good, darn good money for Jabari Walker. Other spots would, other places he wouldn't necessarily be making that much money, and it's an opportunity for him. It used to be when the two-way was was less money, was a smaller contract. I would root for guys like, don't take the two-way, go somewhere else. But now it makes sense for both sides. It really will probably make sense for both sides. But Walker has played himself into the conversation. Like, I think he is, and shout out to my man Kevin Dew for pointing this out on Twitter, is like, I think Jabari Walker's already ahead of Greg Brown on the pecking order for like which 6'9" forward in case we need help plays. I think it's Walker. He just looks better. Like he just legitimately looks better. He's not an elite shooter. He doesn't have a crazy good handle. He's not an explosive athlete. He is a pretty good, smart passer, but he does all of those things well. He doesn't jump off the page with athleticism. He's a smart dude who can dribble a little bit. He can pass a little bit. He can clearly score around the rim a little bit. He knows where to be on defense, and he knows how to cut into space on offense. And he's 6'9". Know how to play and the right size. Easy to root for. I've had a ton of fun watching him, and we'll have a ton of fun continuing to watch him. I'm a fan. If the Blazers found an NBA player at 57, great draft. Like, even regardless of what happens with Shaedon Sharpe, you find an NBA player with the second to last pick in the draft, great draft. Like, this is like stupid to compare, and I don't actually mean this, but in 2012, the Warriors had 3 picks in the NBA draft. They drafted Harrison Barnes, 8th overall. They drafted Festus Ezeli early in the, maybe end of the first round, early in the second round. And then 4 picks later, at 35, they drafted Draymond Green. It was a good draft because they drafted a Hall of Famer in the second round. Doesn't matter if they didn't get the HB pick right. He's been fine. Festus Ezeli pick, he was not fine. He was okay when he was healthy. I also watched the 2016 finals. I know what happened. But like, you nail a second round pick, it changes the whole perspective of draft. The Blazers seem to have gotten an NBA player in the second round. That's money, and you got to be happy for them for that. And you got to be happy for Jabari Walker. He might be just straight up playing himself into more money in Vegas because he is so competent, and NBA has an NBA frame and has a high level of competency. As it turns out, having your dad be a long-term NBA pro and being exposed to NBA basketball for a lot of your life, there are some benefits. A dude who's been around the game his whole life, been around the league his whole life, looks incredibly comfortable and has a great sense of how to play basketball. Who knew? Shout out to Smokey Walker. Shout out to Jabari Walker, who's been the most fun player for the Blazers in Summer League. I thought Trendon Watford in Game 2 really bounced back. I believe he had 7 turnovers in Game 1. He had 0 in Game 2. And he just looked better. He was out of control in the first game. Trendon wants the ball in his hands, and he wants to drive quickly into the paint, and I think he got a little sped up in Game 1. He looked so much better in Game 2. He was the best player on the floor for the Blazers, and he needs to be that. Like that's the goal for Trendon, be the best player on the floor. He looked so much better in Game 2. No one else super notable, to be quite honest, for the Blazers. Keon Johnson does what Keon does. He has those moments where you're like, woo, and moments where you're like, woof. You know, he's young and he'll get there. I'm not super worried about it. He looked good in Game 1. Didi Louzada's not an NBA player, but he's got an NBA contract, so get the bag. Greg Brown, he's still getting there. Brandon Williams is a two-way point guard and looks like it. The Jabari Walker is the really fun part about Summer League, and I think it's okay to celebrate that. I hope you get paid, Jabari. One way or another. I mean, you're going to get paid some way, but I hope you get the bag. I hope you're the 15th roster spot because you've earned it. You're an NBA player. And it's pretty cool for the Blazers and pretty cool for him that a guy taken that deep in the draft is like a pro. I'm comfortable saying that because I don't even think he's played at his, like, I don't think he hasn't done stuff outside of his skill set, and he's still like clearly a functional player in Summer League. If he had, went 5 for 5 in Game 1, if he had a perfect shooting night in Game 2, maybe I would change the way I feel about him. But I thought he played within himself and was really good in Game 2. I'm ready to celebrate him. He's really fun. He's the reason why Summer League is fun. We got more shows coming later this week. This is Monday, July 11th show. The Blazers play 2 more Summer League games, and they'll play a 5th one after that. So we'll have you covered after all those. Trying to nail down some fun interviews this week. Haven't got them, so I can't tease them yet. But as soon as I get them confirmed, you know where to find me. 5 days a week, free on all platforms. Appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.